What is internal tension? Internal tension is a persistent emotional state that you either experience or that you don't experience, but you try to avoid. It's something that you typically can't explain, you can't control. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be anger, it could be a tendency towards addiction, a tendency towards numbing, scrolling on social media. These are all evidences of an internal tension, but internal tension is the persistent emotional state that just keeps coming back, oftentimes because you don't understand what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and how to overcome that feeling. That is internal tension. To understand internal tension, I want to talk about story for a minute. Story is tension and resolution. What's going to happen? How's the character going to get out? Are they going to win the championship? Are they going to succeed? Will they pay their bills? Will they be a good student, successful business owner? That's tension. And the resolution is what happens. Either they succeed or they fail. Either they win or they lose. And everything I just described is external tension. It's the tension that's sitting in our world and that we see and think about and understand every day. Either you have enough money in your bank account or you don't. It's very easy to see. That's external tension. Internal tension is what's going on inside of you that makes that external tension matter. The reason that you are worried about paying your bills is because it says something about whether or not you are enough. It says something about whether or not you are a person who is going to succeed or fail. And that says something about your beliefs about yourself more than your circumstances. Obviously, the two are connected, but the internal tension is about your internal state. And many people think that their internal state is based on their external state, that what's going on inside of them is dependent on what's going outside of them. So if you're succeeding in work, if you're succeeding in relationships, then you will feel peaceful inside. But this is not the way it works. Internal tension is disconnected from external tension, though we try to link it oftentimes. You may not actually feel your internal tension because you may have worked really hard to believe that it doesn't exist or to push it out of your experience. It could be that you numb. It could be that you're busy all the time. It could be that you're constantly keeping noise in your life or something that prevents you from feeling this tension. So your experience of internal tension might be more in the leaking, that you find yourself with behaviors you don't like. You might have emotional outbursts. You might have waves of depression, of anxiety. These come from ignoring your internal tension, ignoring your heart, your internal state. And as you ignore it, it doesn't go away. It just festers and grows and creates unhelpful results in your life. So your internal tension does not change based on your external circumstances. It's an internal state. It's not affected by your circumstances. Your circumstances can make it more visible, can make it easier to cope with, can make it something that is almost gone. The moment that you succeed, you won't feel your internal tension as much, but it comes back after that feeling of success wears off, maybe hours or days or weeks later. The internal tension has to do with the state of your heart. It doesn't have to do with your roles and responsibilities. If you're trying to sort through something inside of you, then you're going to have to use kind of like a sword, a knife to divide between external and internal because they are oftentimes connected inside of us. But your internal tension does not have to do with your marriage. It does not have to do with your job. It doesn't have to do with your roles as a parent or pastor or person in your community. Your internal tension has just to do with you. It has just to do with what's going on inside of you. It has nothing to do with what's going on outside of you. Now, you may feel your internal tension most strongly in these external dynamics. I felt my internal tension very clearly, the internal tension of loneliness. I felt it most in my marriage because I thought my marriage is where I shouldn't feel alone. And so it must be my wife's fault that she's not doing and saying the things that I want her to do and say. That's why I have internal tension. But the reality is my internal tension had nothing to do with my marriage. It just was where I was seeing it. So I was able to step back and say, okay, there's something going on inside of me around loneliness that has nothing to do with my circumstances, that has just to do with my beliefs, with my internal state. And that gives you the ability to delineate and see the external tension, which has value and has need for a response and has significance into your experience of life, and your internal tension. They're both valuable and they both have an importance. So some examples of internal tension, I like to put it in a phrase of, I want to feel X, but instead I feel Y. So I want to feel peace, but instead I feel restless. I want to feel like I matter, but instead I feel like I don't. I want to feel intimate, connected, instead I feel alone. I want to feel loved, but instead I feel not loved, rejected. These are statements of internal tension, and you could have layers of internal tension going on inside of you, and this just makes you human. This just makes you alive. And you might be thinking, I don't know if I have internal tension. Is internal tension like a problem that you happen upon if you are doing something wrong, or if you're just an emotional person? Everybody has a heart. Everybody has internal tension. Your experience of it is based on how willing you have been, how much you've been taught to allow yourself to feel it or not feel it. So if you have no emotion, no experience, it's because you've turned off your emotion, but it's still there underneath the surface, which is why you have things in your life that you don't like, because there's a cost to every attempt to negate our internal reality, our hearts. This could show up in the form of doing things that you think are wrong. It could show up in the form of not feeling anything, not feeling positive emotion, the ability to connect with other people, not feeling close to anyone. This could feel like emptiness. These are all results of disengaging your heart and ignoring your internal tension. So many people are attempting to resolve this internal tension without knowing that it exists. If you've denied it, if you have no experience of it, it's still motivating you. It's still driving your life. If you don't feel like you're enough, you're going to do things that help you feel like you are enough, even if you've told yourself that doesn't matter to me, or even if you're not aware of it. You're going to be driven in the way you approach your work, your relationships, to prove that you're enough. So in this reality of internal tension, there are multiple ways that we can approach internal tension, and most likely you're already doing several of these approaches. And there is a way to actually resolve this internal tension. There is a way to get to a place where this emotional state that's repeated, that's maybe undesired, can actually be resolved so that you actually live in resolution internally, so that you can live at peace. Internal tension is the lack of peace, the lack of ability to breathe. And you could get to a place of peace through denial. You could get to a place of peace through numbing. But we're talking about actually engaging your heart and bringing your heart to a place of peace. That is the desired outcome for internal tension. In the next video, we're going to talk about signs that you are blind to your heart or blind to your internal tension. Maybe as you're listening to me, it makes sense to you, but you're thinking, I don't feel all these emotions like anxiety, or I don't have anger issues, or I'm not struggling with depression. So is there internal tension in me that needs to be resolved? In the next video, we're going to talk about signs that you have unresolved internal tension.